right, let's see what we have up next. What do we got, Igor?
We have a really nice group I want to discuss, and it kind of chimes with what we discussed yesterday, an Order of Lenin group, and it's a nice representation of World War II Soviet awards, what you typically expect to have in a group of a long-serving Soviet officer, a career officer who was in the military long before the war. And it kind of connects many different sides of the spectrum. First of all, you certainly see Order of Lenin, which was the highest award, 2 Orders of Red Banner, which is quite typical for a very long-serving officer who stayed in the military after the war. And you can see the medal for 20th anniversary of RKKA. That immediately tells you that he was there from almost day one. To be eligible for it, he needed to start service in as early as 1918, at the inception of the Red Army.
Oh boy.
He probably took part in the Civil War, we can tell immediately, just by the combination of his awards. And
that is a sign of a long-serving veteran.
Exactly. Somebody who survived everything.
Sauce.
He
Yes.
somehow survived the Stalin's purges.
That's it, the purges, yes.
He survived, obviously fought in the Civil War, during the Red Army, the beginning of it all.
That is key. What
This
few
is a
people
very important
understand.
medal.
Yep.
And you can see that it's on the late suspension, which is how typically they were worn. The early suspension was 4-sided suspension. Very few of those are still around. Typical way to wear them for an officer would be this. He discarded his early suspension because he had no need for it, no use for it anymore.
Yes.
And here's his document for the 20th anniversary of RKKA medal. And you can see that he is already wearing his early award.
That's incredible.
On the early suspension in this photograph.
Just a commentary for our German collectors out there. That is very much equivalent to the old fighter's chevron. Yes. That means you have to be politically correct and also serving.
And also serving for a long time.
That is amazing. Wow.
So that's one. Then the main order booklet is here, which again, what I like is the completeness of this group. Look, he's still wearing his 20th anniversary medal, the early style, but he already is wearing shoulder boards, which is telling you this is a photograph from anywhere from middle of 1943 or later. Because that's when shoulder boards were introduced in the Red Army. He's already wearing his Order of the Red Star, and this Order of the Red Star he's wearing is this particular one.
Wow.
You see, it did
Just
not
like
yet
in the
have,
photo.
It's still, well, it doesn't look like it already has the damage that it suffered later.
Yes.
But
the
he
enamel
obviously
loss.
wore it during the war and after the war, and this is where the enamel damage happened. And it's a very early order booklet. That's another thing to look at. 1943, most order booklets were issued after the war, in around 1945-46, when the people awarded with various decorations came home and exchanged their temporary documents for their permanent, legitimate order booklet. And that was usually done at the military commissariat where they lived after the war. In this case, however, the order booklet is a very early, actual World War II-ish. And it was issued at the time when he was awarded with his first decoration, which was the Order of the Red Star. You can see that it's very low serial number for a Red Star.
And the number matches the piece.
The number, of course, matches
Unquestionable.
the decoration.
Yes.
What's on the actual order?
And once again, you don't need to read Russian.
No,
right?
it speaks for itself. You can
Google Translate.
As long as you know the name and you can type it in Russian, and I'll explain. I already explained briefly in one of our episodes.
To know Russian,
You just transliterate, use Russian keyboard that's available online, press those buttons, get the name, and then do a search with that name on the Russian website. As long as you find the information, you already get all the basics.
And this picture
and
will
you can
pop
translate
up.
it. In many cases, picture will pop up, not always, but in many
not
cases,
always, okay.
it will show up on the website as well. But we already have it here in our document. You can see how he changed early photo from around 1938, 39, and then a photo from 1943, 44. This is interesting too. Not always available at all. It's the coupon booklet that was used for free transportation and also to get monetary premium, monetary reward. With any high-end Soviet decoration came a monthly pension, or stipend, given by the government to recipient. They only had that until 1947. Then they canceled the payments and said, well, we may not need those veterans anymore as much. So lo and behold, no more money.
Oh, geez.
But the various privileges remain. And free transportation, for example, at least once a year, and so forth. So this is one of these early coupon booklets for free transportation. And you can see that he used it a lot. All the coupons are gone.
Oh, wow.
He also recorded, interestingly enough, state bonds that he bought at various times, and the serial numbers of those bonds, because he was hoping to, those were lottery bonds, so you could actually win a chunk of money if you were lucky. Many Soviet citizens. This is it was literally lottery. It would give you monthly interest, very small interest or yearly interest, but also it would give you a chance to win a large prize of money. So this is how they're
very capitalist of them.
Well, it was up to a point. Then they decided that the country was in dire straits.
Yes.
So they canceled all those coupons. All those obligations. So government paper became literally paper. People were using it for wallpaper.
Wallpaper, okay.
Yeah, so all-powerful government can promise you anything
Right.
and do anything to you at any given time.
Right. As we know, they're always full of crap.
Yeah. And inevitably, they'll find a way to screw them.
And
That's
inevitably,
exactly-
they'll try to screw the people.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. And it happened more than once in
promises
a
of
very bad way
communism and
sometimes,
socialism,
this Soviet citizenry. But returning to this group, he started service, as I said, at the beginning, well before the war, during the Civil War. And then he fought in World War II. And being a career officer, he was an administrator. He was a quartermaster officer in the early days of the war. And like many Soviet troops, he got into the encirclement. And it was just by miracle that they were able to break out. And he was very instrumental in leading his troops, whoever he could assemble around him, out of the German trap, out of the pocket. They were able to get through, reconnect with the main body of the Soviet troops, and for that he was given the Order of the Red Star, which is a very unusual feat from the early war. They didn't really award people much for that kind of achievements. They hated, to admit that Soviet military situation was dire in 1941. But that's exactly what he got the award for. And because of that, he was not necessarily promoted, although that happened too, but he was transferred to a combat unit. And ever since that point, he was in charge of the artillery of a rifle unit. So he was an artillery officer for the rest of the war. And even though most of the other awards that he got, a length of service, he had a very good military combat career during the war. He remained in the military for a while after the war, then retired due to old age. But the most fascinating thing about this group is that everything is here, even his veterans badges, some of them with paperwork. And most fascinating, you can see the documents that came with the badges. And you can also see here a very unusual part, which is correspondence between his daughter and the other veterans after he already died about him. And they were writing to her that yes, he was an extraordinary leader, they really loved him, and so forth and so on. They really treasure the memory of your father.
Very emotive, yes.
You see, this is from the Council of Veterans of the 192nd Mountain Rifle Division where he fought.
With a personal touch.
His unit, So great, complete, very complete group with many different dimensions to it.
Complete set.
Complete set.
And how much is this on the website?
It's not on the website yet. I haven't priced it out yet.
Okay, gotcha.
I'm thinking, this medal alone is in the neighborhood of $750 or so.
Yes.
Order of Lenin, wartime or late war, early post-war, that's another $2,500 just for a plain one, but military one commands a little bit of a premium. Two Orders Red Banner, even though they're common varieties, they're both World War II type. So that's about $400 each. So when you add it all up, it really adds up. And there's Order of Patriotic War, World War II
also
vintage,
traceable.
$250 or so. So it all adds up into a chunk of money. So we are talking probably somewhere in $6,000 to $7,000 range.
Not bad.
But it's really not that much considering what you are getting and the completeness of this story.
Yeah, yeah. Now, how is it that you're able to like recall these details of everything in your inventory?
This is the only thing I do. I better remember some of it.
So what do you think, sir? Impressive, huh?
Extremely impressive.
Igor Moisiev, right here, the professor.
Oh, please, no. I'm not,
Over 3 decades.
It's just practical
Experience and knowledge.
Practical experience. Practice. Don't. I mean, it's great to read books. I love history books.
Yes, yes.
But do practical things. Like, that's the beauty of militaria. You can actually touch history, and it propels you to learning about it.
Yes.
It's like, yeah, what is this and why? And then when you start asking yourself these questions, you find huge amount of information online. You find really nice books that are fun to read, both history books and fiction books, sometimes based on real stories. And there are a number I can recommend actually that are definitely worth reading.
All right.
And yeah, there's some outstanding stuff that was put out lately, especially in the last 10-15 years, like on Stalingrad specifically, for example.
That's right.
If you're interested in the Battle of Stalingrad, there's a wealth of information, day by day, location by location. You can go, if you have an award for the Battle of Stalingrad, and I've done this in the past, it's so well researched that I know exact street corner where it happened.
Wow.
I know what exact German units they were facing.
Wow.
Basically you can find out who they killed when they killed each other.
It's that much documentation.
It's that much documentation. It's researched up and down extremely well because of the wealth of archives. German archives, Soviet archives that got opened, at least for a while, and now we get the fruits of it.
Right.
It's amazing amount of information.
It's amazing, yeah.
It's all very factual. If you are interested in World War II hero aces, for example, in World War II aviation in general, there's an excellent series of books that I would recommend called Black Cross Red Star. It's a series that so far 4 volumes have been published. Go check it online. The first volume, unfortunately, is already a rarity, and it sells for huge premium, or maybe $300, $400. But the second one you can get for less, and third and fourth are still in print, I believe. Definitely get them, whichever one you can get, if you're interested in World War II aviation. Because there you have engagements day by day, factual. Not baloney, not what they claimed, although you can read about that too, but what the archives actually show. When they claim that there was a kill, that they shot down a German aircraft, well, you can sift through it and see if it's real or not, because you can see German records matched against Soviet claims, and vice versa. So yes, you know exactly, such and such aircraft was shot down in this and this area, manned by this crew, and whether the crew survived or not, did they bail out, did they crash and got killed, did they get captured, everything is there.
Painstaking detail.
Fantastic.
That is amazing. Well, obviously, you love what you do. Okay.
Do you mind if we have you on YouTube?
No, of course not.
If you do, then it's
no, just hey, tell us where you're from, folks. Where are you guys from?
New York City.
Yes. How is New York City nowadays?
Busy.
Very busy though.
Very hot, very humid.
Oh, very hot and humid. Yeah. So you guys going to school? You work?
It's summer, so we both go to school, but right now we're working.
Oh, beautiful,
Just an
beautiful.
internship.
Internships, right?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Well, welcome to the show. Have you found anything good?
So many things.
Oh, too many things, right? Yes.
Too many things.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Of course.
Enjoy the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just to get off the subject of the medals, we have something completely different, but I think equally interesting. And this is an unusually nice collection of Soviet posters that we got. And among them, one in particular that is very, very uncommon is the propaganda poster about the construction of the Moskva-Volga canal. When I say Moskva, that's how the name of the city Moscow sounds like in Russian. But it's also, many of the American viewers may not know, it's the name of the major river. Major meaning in that area, which is called Moskva River. And the canal was a big Stalin-era early project from the 30s to connect the Moskva River with Volga. The purpose, first and foremost, was to supply the city of Moscow with water, with drinking water, and also water for industrial needs. The reason that it became so important at that time is you have to understand of what was happening. Up until the revolution, St. Petersburg was the capital of Russia ever since the time of Peter the Great. But it was too close to the border, and the Bolshevik leadership decided to move the capitals to Moscow. So the seat of the government and the center, political center of the Soviet life was, of course, in Moscow. Everything else took second fiddle to it, even the old Leningrad capital. And in fact, the government became so oppressive and so all-powerful that to have any chance of succeeding in life, you literally had to go to Moscow. You had to find a way to somehow settle in Moscow. And it wasn't easy at all. You couldn't just move. You couldn't just buy a train ticket and decide to go there. You needed a permit.
Oh, you needed permission.
You needed a permission to get a permanent residency there. And to get that permanent residency, you needed a job. And in order to have a job in Moscow, guess what?
Oh.
You needed a residency.
A little chicken
So
and
it's
egg.
a perfect catch-22.
Yeah.
My family actually went through it. My family, my parents were able to find a job in Moscow, so we moved there for a while in the early 1970s. I was an elementary school kid at that time, and it never quite worked out because even though by their connections, and you needed connections in the Soviet Union for everything, they were able to get a job, both of them, a very good job too, but it was very difficult to get permanent residency. Even having a job, they had to wait for a number of years before it could happen. And in the meantime, the living conditions were very hard, and I had to go to school a million miles away from home and take sometimes 3 types of or 4 types of transportation as a young kid to get there. And so it didn't work out quite well, and eventually we moved to Ukraine. But that aside, my point is that Moscow was really the center of Soviet life in more ways than one. And it's still the picture in current Russia today. It was really literally sucking the blood life out of everything else. In Moscow, you had a chance of advancement. Not necessarily politically, but to get a good job, to get a career, to get your kids into a good college, you needed to be there. And everybody tried, and all the money, all the resources, the best manpower, the best specialists, everything concentrated in Moscow. And it really came to head during the Stalin era of industrialization. And that's when the population of Moscow ballooned at the expense of everything else.
Wow.
So the provinces were drained of human resources, of minerals, of whatever, including even water. And Moscow all of a sudden was in dire need of water. And the solution to that was to get water from the Volga River, which is the main artery dividing the European part of Russia from Asia. This is actually the dividing line between Asia and European continent, very major river, to Moscow River, which is of course very secondary to Volga, and that would increase the supply of water sufficiently to keep the city going. And to this day, this canal, which exists still, is a very important source of water for Moscow. Another reason for the canal was to provide transportation. River transportation was very important at that time, so the idea was to allow travel for passengers and also for commercial cargo from all the way from Caspian Sea to Moscow and then further on, and construction of canals was instrumental in that. So eventually, communist leadership achieved this goal of having Moscow not only the transportation center as a transportation center in terms of railways, but also the nexus of river transportation. And Moscow was called ever since the city or the capital of 5 seas, because everything connects in this nexus. You can get anywhere from the White Sea, from Atlantic, North Atlantic, all the way to Moscow, and then further on you can go to Caspian Sea using Volga, You can even get to Black Sea using Don, and all those canals made it happen. Well, for the construction of canal, you need manpower and you need other resources. Guess where they found the manpower? The manpower was provided by the NKVD prison camps.
Wow.
That's one dirty secret. That wasn't really that much of a secret at the time. That all the construction of major industrial projects in the Soviet Union was made possible by the slave labor.
Wow.
There's even an opinion that they would make a next wave of arrests to match whatever the next industrial project demanded it, to provide free labor. There would never be this great, grandiose achievements of the first, second, or third 5-year plan, all this humongous, massive program of industrializing Russia and the rest of the Soviet Union. It would never be achieved, never would be possible without slave labor. The cadres, the engineering brains behind the projects were often foreign. You may not know it, but American engineers built thousands of industrial enterprises in Soviet Russia in pre-war years. German engineers participated too, but especially American companies. The great projects such as Dnipro Dam, Dnipro Gas, and others were built with American direct participation. Skilled labor, not just engineers, but also skilled mechanics, skilled excavator drivers, and so forth, were provided by the United States. For money, of course. This money came from confiscated goods, from whatever plunder Bolsheviks had from the early days of the revolution. They used it all to pay for skilled labor, and the rest of it was provided for free by gulags. And this is exactly what this project was. Very large project, very highly publicized as a great achievement of communism. And you see that it took about 6 years to complete it. It started in 1932, and it shows the map of the project, and it explains what this project was and how important it was. And indeed, it was an engineering marvel, because not only they transferred water over 100 or so mile distance, 128 kilometers, so translate to maybe 80 miles or so, but also it was totally navigable. It was a canal that had a large number of hydroelectric dams. It had 5 pumping stations, and the reason for those pumping stations was that for the first time, for a large canal anyway, they were actually lifting water. So Volga was below the level of the canal, of the rest of the canal, the top level of the canal.
Below the water
So they
table.
had to pump water from Moscow using pumping stations, and that water would carry ships from Volga to the higher point, and then it would go down, descend to Moscow, and that's where they built hydroelectric stations to provide electricity. And there were a number of locks, 11 dams altogether, 11 locks, large number of bridges. So it was a massive, massive engineering undertaking, and this is what this poster is boasting about. You can see the city of Moscow here. You see Dmitrov, which was the key point for the canal construction, because for that purpose alone, they organized a huge concentration camp full of prisoners.
Wow.
200,000 people were working for free, slave labor, on the construction of canal at any given time. In total, something like 600,000 to 700,000 people worked there as slave laborers at one point or another. Countless tens of thousands of them died of inhumane conditions, of hunger, of want, of abuse. Many were killed, shot, and so forth.
Amazing.
But who counted? This is how things were done in a true socialist system, in a true socialist state.
Amazing.
All-powerful state could do such things.
Explain to us, how rare is this piece?
The poster is incredibly rare. Very few of those survived from the Stalin era. You can see that it was printed in 1938. Here's the date of publication.
Oh, wow.
So it's the first on my memory of this particular poster. Yes, we do get posters from World War II and later, but an early one such as this specifically on such an infamous or famous, depending on how you look at it, construction project, which was one of the key projects of the earlier pre-war Soviet development. This is quite scarce.
Quite scarce in such great condition.
And to go with this poster, just as an illustration, we have a badge issued to one of the participants of the construction. And what I mean is, there were actually two different badges. This is one of them, and it says here to a participant of the Moscow-Volga canal construction.
Wow!
And you see, there's a curious thing about this badge. This could be even issued to a prisoner. Some of the prisoners who showed good labor results, some, especially those who stayed on the construction project after they were released, after they served their sentence, whatever it was, 5, 10, 2 years. When they completed their sentence and they were still in the area and they decided on their own volition to stay. Of course, when I say on their own will, free will, there was no free will. They often had no other place to go. With the sentence, after serving the sentence, they were still not allowed to go to their hometown in many cases. They were still prohibited from going back. So they would stay, and if they did stay and showed good results, they could be awarded with this badge. So we don't know who got this particular one. It could be an engineer, a manager, and
these were not numbered.
And
They're
KVD and KVD guard. But it's a nice condition, and it could equally be issued to a prisoner, to a former prisoner.
I mean, beautiful enamels, the colors.
You know what's curious about it? Look at this ship.
Okay.
And see, it's going through the canal, right?
Yes.
See the reflection of the ship? It's blood red.
Oh.
This was not the original design.
Oh.
But most of these badges, if not all, have this little tiny quirk.
Oh.
I think it might have been deliberate on the side of those who made the badges, without saying anything.
Made with blood.
Yeah. This canal was paved with blood. It was declared one of the hugest accomplishments of communism, and some of the foreign dignitaries were visiting this canal and others. Other famous Belomor Canal, also built by prisoners. John Reed among them, and some of the Bernard Shaw, I think, showed up. And of course, they all applauded to how beautiful it looked. It was modern architecture at its best, and many embellishments, wonderful sculptures lined the canal. They probably knew or could guess how it became possible. They never said a word. In American press, in foreign press in general, it was always great achievement of socialism. Socialist system can actually deliver. Look at what has been done and how wonderful it all was. But in reality, it cost thousands and thousands and millions of lives. And in many cases, those projects turned out to be useless or near so. Like some of the canals silted. Some of them became unnavigable eventually. Some lost their industrial purpose, like this canal, case in point. It's still being used for transportation, but just for tourists.
All right.
It's no longer a means of delivering cargo.
And of course, we're at a show. Let's do a little segue. Can you explain something about this?
Thank you for your patience.
Oh, can you explain something about the helmet? Tell us about this helmet.
Okay. It's a piece that's unfortunately pretending to be a World War II Soviet helmet.
Pretending?
Yes. And what I mean by this, it's original as far as, yes, it is a Soviet helmet.
Okay.
It is a World War II model 1940. You can count the number of rivets.
Oh, the number of rivets.
The overall shape is, of course, standard, iconic World War II Soviet helmet.
Nice.
There is one problem with it.
Oh, what's the problem?
It's a post-war issue that is made to look like World War II. And Soviet 1942 or 43 helmet does not really differ from a 1949 helmet so much. The paint slightly changed, so I would guess this piece here is probably from 49, 50 or later.
Okay.
Maybe early 50s even.
I assume it's priced right?
It's the same liner, it's the same kind of chin strap as used during the war, but the stamp here, which says that it's 1943, supposedly, is a fake.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. So fake stamps were put in to sell it to some unsuspecting collector for maybe big bucks.
Well, it's priced right, obviously.
Obviously, yeah. I'm not going to charge this kind of money that we're charging for.
So how much are we talking about?
I would sell it for $150.
That's it? Oh boy, that's incredible.
A real thing will set you back maybe $800-900.
Oh, okay.
Or more in a condition like this, I would say more like $1,000.
Okay.
And just to finish our discussion of the posters on grandiose Soviet industrial project, there was another one that we got, and it's also about the construction of a major canal. Only this took place later in the post-war years, and again, same type of setup. They would declare it a major industrial effort, and it would all be done by prison labor in the immediate years after the war, and it was pretty much completed by 1952. You can see that the date of the publication of the poster at 52.
Wow.
And it's boasting about actually, and it says that arable area as of 1952, and then the plans for 56, how much it would expand because of this canal.
Wow.
So it was used for irrigation, but also for connecting major river arteries, and the name is Volga Don. So this one connects Volga River and Don River, and it mentions that this is navigable canal named after Vladimir Lenin. Another huge achievement of socialism that was built on blood. And again, like many of those bureaucrat-driven projects, in many cases they become useless. In many cases they became harmful for environment in particular. That many of the massive Soviet factories built in the 30s or later even, they would do tremendous damage to environment. So many of the places were famously dangerous and harmful to live in. Some of the major cities were constantly shrouded in smog. There were disasters any place you looked at in the Soviet Union. So yeah, you would see this grandiose pyramid-like achievements, but they would oftentimes have as much use as the pyramids. They would be a great shrine to the great leader who was in charge, but beyond that, to the rest of humanity, they were no use, very little use. Just like the Great Pyramids were for Egypt. You know, the Egyptian dynasty, whatever was the ruling dynasty in the time of Cheops, it ended with the construction of pyramids. It exhausted Egypt to such an extent that the whole system failed.
Caused their own demise.
Exactly. But who counts?
Right. That's right.
It's enough for you.
So much for free slave labor.
And speaking of slave labor and speaking of great achievements, here's another good one.
What do we got here?
Yeah, it's a story in its own.
That's one big bird.
It's one big bird indeed, and you know, they always have this mania of building bigger and better and more, and something to overshadow everybody else, something grandiose. That's on every dictator's mind.
Right.
So if it was an airplane built in the Soviet Union, guess what? It had to be the biggest airplane in the world.
Oh, wow.
And did they achieve it? Yes, they did. And here is the airplane. It's called Maxim Gorky, and this was one of the proudest moments of Soviet aviation. The airplane that overshadowed all. The first model of it had 6 engines on the wings and 1 additional engine on top. And it was designed with the purpose of as much as carrying extra airplanes. It would be airplane carrier.
That is
bananas. For military purpose, they actually had experimented with that. And also, it would carry a large number of passengers.
Right.
It was indeed the biggest airplane in the world up until well into World War II. And the size of it, the wingspan, was comparable, if not bigger, than Boeing 747. So it was in truth enormous. Only one little problem: there was no infrastructure to support it. So initially, when they announced it to great fanfare and started collecting money, they actually collected money from voluntary donations of the Soviet citizens to build this monster. The plan was to build as many as 15 of them. In reality, after they built one, they started another one. By the time they were done with the second one, the first one crashed.
No kidding.
And the first one crashed for the stupidest of reasons. They were showing it off. flying demonstration flights. And in one of those flights, they wanted to show the agility of Soviet fighter aircraft that would literally make spins around the big bird.
I see.
Now, on one of those spins, one of those biplane pilots crashed into the wing of what was called Maxim Gorky,
Wow.
named after a socialist realism artist. Not artist, the literary figure, the writer, famous writer. And the airplane crashed, killing everybody on board, killing several people additionally on the ground.
Incredible.
It was a huge disaster. But notwithstanding that, the second plane, construction of the second plane proceeded and resulted in actually delivering a model that kept flying only of the initial 15, that was the only one. Of the initial plan to build 15, this was the only one because it was understood by then that it was a disaster financially. It had no purpose.
Yes.
Soviet airfields were not prepared to accept this aircraft. They did not have means of fueling it, and there was not really a demand to fly this for commercial purposes. So even though Bolsheviks eagerly ignored economic realities would always catch up in the end. So instead of putting money into this, they decided to go for different projects, and it was conveniently forgotten. All the money collected from Soviet population was used for something else without asking anybody, and that was the end of the story. You may want to ask what went on with the second aircraft that was built. It was actually relocated. It was actually flying regular missions from Moscow to the southern area of the USSR, southern areas of the USSR, as far as the Caucasus. Then, when Moscow came under siege, or just before, in World War II, in the Patriotic War, when Germans were too close, they decided to relocate the aircraft because it was too dangerous. It would become an easy target, easy prey for German aircraft, for German fighters. So they relocated it into the Soviet interior, and it kept flying missions for delivering cargo and important people, I guess, workers and whatnot, in the Central Asia.
Yeah.
Then something extraordinary happened. It crashed, killing everybody on board, for the reason that still nobody can explain convincingly. The pilot apparently had other affairs than to actually pilot the aircraft.
Oh.
He let somebody from the passengers to hold the controls, and that somebody apparently flew on that aircraft before as a passenger and also had some education as a pilot. Only one little problem: he didn't have any experience flying this big one.
Wow.
He didn't know how to handle every control.
Yes.
And while the pilot was in the passenger compartment doing only what we can guess he was doing, this other fellow was at the controls and accidentally flipped the controls of the ailerons, the control of the altitude, and could not flip it back, could not figure out how to put it back in its original position. So the plane went into a spiral and spiraled down into the ground. There was a co-pilot who was either asleep or didn't know either how to handle this, and everybody got killed, including the pilot. They found the body of the pilot, as I said, in the passenger compartment with bodies of other passengers. The pilot was stark naked.
Oh, geez. Okay.
So this was Airplane, the movie, if you saw it.
Yes.
In real life.
In real life. That's quite a story.
The level of insanity and aptitude that you would sometimes get with supposedly very rigid and very bureaucratic Soviet.
And you would think the first mishap with the first Maxim Gorky
would teach them something,
because there was some pilot showboating, doing barrel rolls, miscalculated his turns. At least that's kind of explainable.
But here you have the pilot doing his business.
And I'm assuming he's being paid.
Yeah, of course.
And
so this was kind of hushed up.
He had one job to do.
Yeah, but there was a government committee. It went nowhere. In any case, I mean, what could they do? Everybody was killed.
Yes, yes.
So, but that's the story of this airplane. But while it was still flying, there is this poster that was put out about the airplane, and it says the country must know the builders of the giant airplane. And giant it was Maxim Gorky, and it explains the characteristics of the aircraft.
Yes.
All the different compartments it had.
Yes.
It even had the press center on it for propaganda purposes. It had all kinds of luxuries.
A press compartment.
A press compartment, yes. Press was very important.
Oh, geez. History does repeat itself, because you were mentioning infrastructure. They built something so colossal that there was no existing infrastructure.
Yeah, it was for no purpose at all.
So history kind of repeats today with charging stations. Billions of dollars spent
put billions
charging stations
into development of something that has no practical use.
That's right.
That's when you do bureaucratic decisions on running things, as opposed to letting market figure it out.
That's right.
And no bureaucrat is smart enough to supplant decisions of millions of people who are pursuing their own personal interests in every little step that they make, and by doing so improve life for everybody by actually calling the industry, demanding, forcing the industry to provide what they really need.
The bureaucrats are great.
You have a bureaucrat deciding what everybody needs. It doesn't matter how smart he is.
That's right.
It doesn't matter what college degree he has. You can be Einstein, but 10 Einsteins or 100 or 1,000 cannot figure it out better than millions of everyday consumers.
They can't predict the market.
And that's what happens.
That's right.
This absurdity of the system.
Yes, absurdity of communism, socialism, progressivism, and all that stuff.
Here in action.
All right.
We were talking about posters today, but I also want to show some of the original artwork from the World War II era, which is very uncommon to see. Even posters from World War II, not very many, or before the war, not many of them survived. But to see an original artwork is quite extraordinary, especially by somebody who was obviously there in the field. It's not someone who stayed far from the front. This is a soldier who created this drawing.
Oh, that's nice.
And you can see that it's very realistic.
Oh,
it's not really glorifying or embellishing anything.
No.
It's a soldier reading a letter from home.
Yeah, this is not cubism or anything.
No. This is very realistic.
Beautiful.
And this is how the painter, the artist saw it.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, he was one of those soldiers.
My God! Wow. From the field.
Beautifully done.
That's right.
In pencil. Here's another one.
It was in the field. It was done in the field.
And remember how we discussed that Soviet soldiers often wore their medals in the field. Here's another case, and he's not inventing anything.
Oh, this guy was not working.
He was drawing it, sitting in the same trench, or being in the same dugout, or in the same field with the soldiers.
Oh, it's magnificent.
This is done.
Absolutely magnificent. Ready for framing.
One more.
Oh, yes.
Also very cool. Same artist with the same hands.
This is excellent. Excellent.
And he usually depicts sergeants. Like this guy is a sergeant, white stripe, sergeant major.
Very nice.
This may be an enlisted man. Yes. This guy is a sergeant again.
Okay. Yes.
But just
and attention to details.
Soviet infantry grunts. This is how they really look.
Wow. Talent, a lot of talent.
And really like classical talent in painting.
It sure is.
Really perfectly done.
Yes.
Few more things. Speaking of paintings, this one is very curious. It still has its original frame.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. And you can see a picture here of a World War II officer, but not just a World War II officer. When you look at fine details, you realize who he was.
Okay.
This fellow was in KVD. Oh. And the reason I know he was in KVD, you can see his shoulder blades piped in blue, light blue. Now, light blue could be Air Force. We can't really tell for sure if it's light blue or royal blue or what shade of blue. But one thing for certain, look at the shape of the shoulder blades. They're kind of vaguely six-sided, like there is a wedge here, but it's not pointy.
Yep.
And this type of shoulder boards during the war was used by NKVD.
Wow.
NKVD, unlike other Soviet troops, started, when they started using shoulder boards in 1943, they got, for a very short time, shoulder boards, a very peculiar style, and then within half a year or so, they went to six-sided boards. And only Navy had six-sided boards at that time. All other Soviet branches of service, military service, started using six-sided boards like this only from around 1947, maybe late 46. So this cannot be anything, and you can see the date is 1945.
Oh yeah.
So in 45, only an KVD officer could wear this kind of shoulder boards. You can see that he's definitely a combat veteran. Look at his wound stripes. Two heavy wounds, two serious wounds, one light wound, the red one. So a nice wartime portrait. And on top of this, we have a couple of pictures of him and his wife. This came together in a lot, and you can see that this is actually him. Same hairline, same shape of the face. He's much younger here.
That's lovely couple.
Almost young.
Yeah.
Enough. But anyway, this are his wife and him.
That's incredible. Oh,
and
inscriptions
the date
on the back.
46 here.
Okay.
Remember of us sometimes, Oля and Misha, so his name was Michael. And this is from Oля, who was apparently his wife much earlier, in 1938.
Nice.
So it's great to have this connection, not just the face,
and that's the original glass?
but some story. I don't know about that,
Sure,
but it certainly looks old. It may well be.
Let's take a look at the back.
Let's look at the back.
Oh yeah. That's old. That's old.
I'm giving this as a gift to my dear wife, and he's using this kind of term of endearment for wife, Женулька, not just wife, but my very dear, lovely wife, Olenka, on 13 October 1945. And this is anniversary from the day of the liberation of the city of Riga.
Wow.
So where this portrait was made, most likely he was serving in Riga, the capital of Latvia, which was reoccupied by the Soviets in 1944. And he was an NKVD officer, so he was apparently like watching, making sure that the population is compliant. And there were serious repressions on the side of NKVD against the locals, because Latvia, of course, didn't want to be part of the Soviet Union.
One of a kind with the accompanying actual photographs of the person.
It's a little idealized portrait. He looks more mature in the photo. I just realized that the photo is from the same period.
Yes. Wow. That's fantastic.
But very professionally done portrait.
Yes, one of a
kind. Not many of them that you see that are Volga to vintage. Right after that.
Not many, right?
Not many. No, that's uncommon. Speaking of other artwork that we have today, we have a few images of Stalin.
Of course, yes. Uncle Joe.
Portraits.
Yep.
Yeah, this one is one of them.
Yep.
And this one was actually hand done. It's not a print.
That is hand done.
This was partly hand done. Yep, for sure.
So fine. That is incredible.
Airbrushed and painted.
Airbrushed and
and then there are more. This one is a poster.
Okay.
And this was done. They had this tremendous amount of posters and books and whatnot and busts of Stalin for his 70th birthday. And this is from 1949, as far as I remember. Right here, that's his 70th birthday. All kinds of tributes were made.
Yes,
the dear leader, and this is a song about Stalin. So it's his portrait and a song about him, how he's the greatest person who ever lived.
Okay.
And the amount of psychopathy and praise is just embarrassing, really.
Yeah, over the top, right?
Way over the top. You can compare to, I don't know, North Korea maybe. On the level of that.
Yeah.
In this insanity.
It's a true cultism of Stalin.
Yes, Stalin is the people that are walking to victory over the tops of the highest mountains. Stalin is all our affairs. Stalin is the wings of the eagle. Stalin is the strength and brains of the millions.
That's incredible.
So
That's incredible.
Embarrassing, but that was a norm.
Yes. Once again, a rare piece that survived.
Not many survived the de-Stalinization era.
Yeah.
Of Khrushchev. And
I guess most got tossed in the trash, right?
Yeah, posters were hard to keep.
Yeah.
in good shape.
Yeah.
And who would think of hiding one of this?
Oh, yeah.
Not many would risk it,
Not many, yes.
and you would get nothing out of it.
Yes,
So
yes.
this could not be displayed anywhere. Definitely not in a public place. So it's an oddity that anything survived.
Wow, a rarity,
Yes,
that's for
yeah.
sure.
And speaking of other original artwork, there's one more that we have, also Stalin, dedicated to Stalin. And this was something that you would typically see as a poster, but even though it's of quite enormous size,
Okay.
again, it's hand done.
Yes, I see. Wow.
You can see the
Oh, yes,
Transfer
yes.
from
How
the
the
front.
paint bled right through the
Yep.
fabric.
Yep.
Hand done.
Yeah, and this is Stalin and our happy childhood.
Oh, and
how
it's
he's
enormous.
The father to all
Yep.
and the greatest person.
Not just an uncle, a papa.
Yep. And this is typical of late stage of life of these tyrants.
Yes.
That they want to seem to be very fatherly
Yes.
figures.
And the details to the mustache. Wow. That's
Quite
amazing.
an unusual piece.
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
It's also nice that it has stamps on the back of it.
Oh,
Stamps.
yes. Let's take a closer look at the stamps. Oh, yes.
One at least here.
Meaning that this was approved.
Yeah, yeah, officially approved. It had to be.
Yeah, you can't just go
Officially approved.
painting Stalin willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Mm.
It says Ukrainian Soviet was in Ukraine. It was
Okay.
done. And it's from 1951,
Okay.
August 1951. It was approved by the artist committee. There was committee of
Right.
for arts.
Right.
That would approve things like this. Somebody signed it, official signature.
Interesting. It had to be flattering, obviously.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. And it had to be done professionally too.
Professionally, yes.
They
No
couldn't
amateur
allow,
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amateur
Yeah.
depiction of
And look
the
at that. Look how the paint medium just bled right through the
so the linen.
the linen. Yes. Wow. Unbelievable.
Very neat piece for a collector.
Yes. Now, how much would a collector need to shell out for something of this magnitude?
Yeah,
Intensity.
over 1,000.
Okay, not bad.
But
For
this is original artwork. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Oh, the
But
detail.
they're
Wow.
very, very professionally done. Look at the eyes. And the,
Yep. Absolutely. No, that's not a child's
the
child's
shading is
work.
great. Yeah.
Yeah, the shading. Yes. Wow. Absolutely amazing.
This one is more mature. This is what you more often see.
Okay.
But still very nice.
Okay.
Like somebody put a lot of work in it.
Oh,
This
yeah,
is actually
yeah.
a tapestry. So it's all
Yes.
hands-on
Embroidery.
embroidery.
In fact, yes.
Embroidery.
Yes. Okay, so it's a combination of paint and
There is
embroidery.
no paint. These are pieces of clothes.
Oh
inserts.
my!
Everything is embroidered. The images, the
right.
outline, and everything.
Yes.
The star here. So they
Actually,
use pieces
embroidery.
of fabric. You see the same technique on some of the early Soviet flags,
Yes. The same technique. Yes.
where they would partly embroider it and partly sewn in
Oh yes.
pieces of silk, typically.
Wow. So this would be from 1938.
Yep. For the anniversary, near anniversary,
yes.
21st it says. 21st anniversary of
Oh,
October.
look at the detail to the hair. The embroidery actually follows the hairline. That is amazing. The craftsmanship. One of a kind?
One
right?
of a kind, I'm sure.
There
There's
we
no
go.
other existing under
There
the
we
sun.
go. There we go.
This was definitely hand done.
Historic.
Sometimes they use different, even strange medium,
Hmm.
like here. It's literally done on plastic.
Is it?
On linoleum, sort of thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, that's right. It has that. Oh, Lord. Yeah. That's right. That plastic feel.
And just by the sort of artistry, by the pattern that they used here, I can say it was probably done in the Caucasus area, which was native to Stalin.
Once again, hand done.
Hand done, of course.
This was not.
No spared, no expense.
Mass-
Imagine how many
mass
people
production
worked
piece.
on producing this kind of propaganda.
Correct.
The effort.
Correct. Wow. Oh no, yeah. That was not a machine printed or anything.
And look at his medals.
Yes.
Remember our discussion of 20th anniversary?
Oh,
well, he
yes,
certainly
yes. There we
got
go.
awarded one
There
of
we
those
go.
himself.
Yep. Wow.
Order of Suvorov First Class,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Marshal Star.
Yeah, he was very generous to himself. Yes.
Yes,
Yes. He took care of himself.
he took care of it.
Yeah.
He was modest enough never to wear his Gold Star of Hero of the Soviet Union. When he got awarded
Gotcha.
with one of those,
Yes.
he put it in his closet somewhere and
Okay.
never
Okay.
wore it, kind of demonstrating that he maybe not doesn't consider
okay.
himself to be worthy.
I
So
see.
he did wear his Socialist Labor Star.
Okay,
from
then.
earlier days.
At least he kind of like respected that.
Yeah,
Respected the status,
some of
the
the-
stature
yeah,
of
yeah.
certain awards. Yeah. At least he accorded the correct respect. Yes. That's magnificent.
All right, so that's our art and Soviet posters for today.
Yeah,
I think it was
fantastic.
Quite plenty,
And-
but
And what a show.
There
what
are
a
other
show.
things.
Yes.
It's still busy, which is amazing because
Yes.
it's supposed to be closing at this time.
Yeah.
We
People
still have
still
some
buzzing
customers,
around. Yep.
Dealers are all still here.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you again, Igor.
You're very, very welcome, and let's hope for more
Absolutely.
in the future episodes.
Yes.
Whatever we can cover, we will.
For
It'll be
sure.
worth it.